Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Round 17 Blue Abroad show. I'm your host, Tez, and sitting beside me tonight, well, not beside me, but, beside me, if you know what I mean, Mr. Paul Sebastiani. How are you, mate?
Very, very well. There we go. Hold on, we got it. Social distancing punch from a long way away, my friend. I'm well. I'm not really over the loss yesterday. Very, very, very disappointing and a very somber mood last night. And waking up this morning to the realisation that our football club lost to the basket case of the league.
Yeah, well, this is going to be a good therapy session for you, mate, sitting in the hot seat. So I look forward to dissecting it all with you. But before we do that, I would love to make a few thank yous. First of all, to Shad and his company, Assertive Media, who power the Blue Abroad show. Shad does all the production stuff behind the scenes, so that way I don't need to do anything, and no one needs to do anything. So, Shad, thank you very much, guys. Most of you that watch the show will know Shad's company. If you are new to the show, welcome, and make sure you head to Assertive Media on Facebook and give his page a like and a follow. And if you're keen for any production needs, Shad will hook you up. Black Carrot, early donation, $20. He says the Baggers only have one chance left at regaining some respect from its fans this weekend, and to leave us excited for 2021, do that by winning this weekend. Give back to Simo for his service. Spot on, mate. We're gonna spend some time on that for sure. I do want to thank the members as well, members of the channel. You guys are unbelievable. I think we're up to something like 53 or 54 members. We added a couple this week. We added Jake Alfredini, Hus L, and Mr. Bluebaggers. So thank you very much. We had Pommy and Oz rejoin, Henry Bush rejoin, Stewie O'Loughlin, Nick Jarman, Dynamic Hypnotic join as well. So thank you guys for your support. You allow the channel to grow at the rate that it has, and it's fantastic. So you guys are awesome. Your names are down the bottom there, and I look forward to seeing what's going to happen next. But Paolo, mate,
yes,
let's get into it. Give me a. By the way, Dan has not been retired. Dan, we've just got a rotation policy going. Want to get some more voices on. Big shoes to fill, mate. Dan's a very popular figure in these parts.
I'll try my best, mate. I'll try my best. That's all I can do, Terry. That's all I can do.
Nah, you're going to be fine, mate. You will carve out your own shoes. So looking forward to it. But, mate, obviously we are disappointed. This will be the show that allows us to consolidate, talk about it, get over it. But I think there's a little bit more to talk about. So give me a high level. What was your experience with that game?
From the onset, I just thought we were completely off. The moment that their first goal went through, you see Lockie Plowman just going through the motions, running back to try and cover him, and was just able to take an easy mark and then slot the set shot. And from then on in, our response was it was non-existent. Another 5-goal swing that we concede, and very, very, very disappointing. And, we fought back in that third quarter and tried to, we got back into the contest too, but poor from the onset and just beaten by it's, to quote one of our favourite fans from Arsenal Fan TV, it's a shit loss against another shit football club, basically, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, there's something we haven't really. I mean, we've come up against sides this year who, before the game, were talking about how we should beat them, and I think for the most part we've done that job. But gee, when it was time to unravel the one that we didn't get the job done, it really fucking unraveled, didn't it?
Some of it, I had to do the double take. Fair dinkum, mate. We were playing in dry conditions, weren't we?
Evidently.
Some of the kicks in the first half, just schoolboy stuff. Absolutely schoolboy stuff from senior blokes out there who were in clean air, free space, and just unable to hit a target. No care with ball in hand. And the commentators were just absolutely cursing us, and rightfully so. I think we went at something like 32% by foot about halfway through the second quarter. I think that was a statistic that was being brandied about in the commentary box at Fox Footy. And I just cannot understand for the life of me in those conditions how you take so little care and pride in your disposal with the football. And the entries going inside forward 50, what do you say, mate? What's a bloke like Harry Mackay supposed to do?
Yeah.
You know,
No,
and
true.
it's the and what frustrates me the most out of that game as well is that the Sydney start, the first half was inexcusable. That was inexcusable, but the same thing has happened again against a worse team. You know, and the lack of respect for the opposition, 53-9 in the first half. That's what the scoreboard was, 53-9 against the Adelaide Crows. Horrific stuff, just unprofessional, negligent, little respect for the opponent, just letting them run ragged through the contest. And the goals that they were kicking were just, you know, they were literally just walking them in half the time, which was terrible. You know, terrible to watch. And with what's been on the line in the last couple of weeks, you know, just really, really disappointing. And unfortunately, it's where the club's at, Terry.
Yeah. How much weight do you give to the fourth game in 14 or 15 days? Because I'm sort of, I've heard it, I acknowledge it, and I think it is a factor for the sluggishness and all of that. But by the same token, I'm in the viewpoint of, well, you knew that you were playing the 4 games, so manage. That's for me.
Exactly, mate. You know it's coming. It's not like it's not there. You know you're playing 4 games in X amount of days, and whether or not we could have rotated a little bit more to keep the legs fresh, or even rotating blokes during the game onto the ball, which I think we did a little bit of. You know, as soon as Gibbons went up the ball, that sort of sparked us up a little bit, but it was too little, too late. You know, and there was the department, or the fitness department, got absolutely ripped on Twitter and all social media for playing Sam Doherty, and rightfully so. I mean, you're taking a bloke into a game who's done 2 bloody ACLs with a calf niggle. Mate, he didn't need to be out there. Fair dinkum. I mean, if you had a guy in the reserves who was, you know, even maybe just pushing his case as a halfback flanker, you know, play the fresh kid, play the guy who's 100% fit. I know Doherty's is a leader of our club. You know, he's a pillar in our defence, but, you know, you got to play the fresh kid, mate. I think you do.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Let's touch on that. So they do their preparation for the game. He's obviously sore. There would have been, I mean, I can only assume there's a conversation between Doc and Jack Russell. What's the balance between saying, listen, skipper, we put faith in your decision, and no, we're the high performance staff, we decide? Where do you sit on that?
But the fact he had to tape his calf up that heavily before the game just says it all, I think. Enough said. You know, and it's the same with Cripper. Bloke's going out there, looks like a bloody mummy. You know, so you know, both captains look battered and bruised at the moment, and I think I think Cripper's going to play this week by the looks of it. You know, he's fronted up every game. Whether or not he's going at, you know, even 80% at the moment, I don't think he is. But I mean, with a fitness coach asks a player, "Do you want to play?" What's the response going to be? They're always going to want to play, Terry. They're always going to want to play. You know, and whether or not it's a collective decision through the player, the fitness staff, and the coaches, you know, that has its pros and cons as well. You know, or if you have just one bloke making the decision, you know, that has its pros and cons too. So obviously they got the decision to play Doherty completely wrong, and it looks like the decision to play Cripps over the last few weeks, you know, might come back to hurt him. You know, he looks absolutely battered and bruised at the moment. Even Jack Martin the week before, he's gone down with another injury too. So again, I don't buy too much into the 4 games in 15 days thing. As you said, we knew it was coming. You got to be prepared for it. And we said before this block of games even started, when round 2 was postponed, Andrew Russell said in a media release that, you know, we're preparing to play on 5 and 4 day breaks. That's what we're doing in our preseason at the moment, in the gap between round 1 and 2. We know it's coming. We know it's going to come. Are we prepared for it? Clearly we weren't yesterday.
Yep. Black Carrot has thrown another tenner, and he says, in retrospect, I would have rather seen Gibbs carried off on a stretcher, not lifted up like a king yesty, still fuming. I guess that's the segue into the conversation. Polarizing views on opposite side of the coin. You know, it was obviously a big a big game for the football club. They're all big because there's a lot of pride on the line. And Bryce Gibbs, who has been cooked for however many years now he's been done, back to his career best form. It's like we wanted him to play well.
The moment he started getting free ball at halfback, I just turned and looked into my soul and said, "You got to be fucking kidding me, right?" I think he's had a combined 19 disposals or something like that in the 2 games he's played this year, and then decides to rock up it. And the fact that no one actually went up to him and gave him a bit during the game, no one knocked him, no one gave him a bump, no one niggled him off the ball, and that is just that is a sign of where our club is at the moment. Pretty boys going through the motions, fanfare, just some of the sycophantic nature of our fans prior to this game. Oh, it was absolutely sickening, to be honest, mate. At the end of the day, he left the club. He wanted to be traded out, and then there's all this fanfare about, he tried in his last year, even though we knew he was going to get traded, blah, 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 blah. What's he supposed to do? Not try. That it's a non-negotiable. Things like that are a non-negotiable. And the fanfare before the game and after the game, look, I said, well done. You played however many games for the club you did. You've won you won a BNF, did he? When was that? When did he win his BNF?
2014.
2014, he won his BNF, so well done there. Kudos to you there. But outside of that, what has he achieved at the Carlton Football Club from a team perspective to warrant that type of send-off, I think? To see Cruiser sitting in the stands, someone like that he has given his heart and soul to the club. Bryce Gibbs hasn't given his heart and soul to the club, I don't think, with a bloke leaving, whether it was family related or whatever it was off field. If you truly love a club, you don't leave. That's my opinion. Look at Roy Keane, Manchester United. He said, "What am I going to do?" I'm applauded and praised for trying and training. No, and as Balotelli said when he scored in the Euros, a postman doesn't get praised for delivering the post. That's your job. You're there to do it. So this, as I said, the sycophantic nature with that was there prior to this game. I think just it sums up the club, sums up a lot of the standard and what's being driven, to the inside the club as well. Just there was no hard edge, going into the game, no hard edge in the game, no hard edge after the game. And I don't know if you saw Teague's presser, mate. He honestly looked filthy with it. I don't think he was not happy at all.
Yeah, I'm going to pose a question to the audience, and then I'm going to touch on that point, Paul. So, for you guys in the audience, what did you like? Were you guys okay with the build-up? Did you share some thoughts so I can read them out about the build-up to the game with the Bryce Gibbs farewell game? Because it seems that some people sit on one side and some people sit on the other. Paul, I think you're spot on. I listened to Teague's press conference, and it was almost like there was a reservation for Teague to go in on it, and I couldn't help but feel that he doesn't want to go in because the club have projected this pre-game about the farewell, and he doesn't want to be, speaking out against the institution. That was just the first thought that came to my mind. It was kind of like, say what you got to say, mate. Teague, go for it.
Was he wearing a Carlton jersey at the end of that game, Terry?
He was not.
No. So why the whole spiel? Why the whole that's what I can't understand. He's an Adelaide footballer. We said our farewells years ago when he left and was traded for us. That was it. You're done from the club. Sayonara. Thank you for your services. You're a BNF winner. I respect you as a footballer, but you're an Adelaide footballer now. You are an Adelaide footballer now. And there's been talk that apparently it was only organised by a few of the players. So no one really had a say in it, And, Murph and Simo, paying respect to him, mate, whatever. But for me, I don't think it was a good look and just showed up the soft underbelly of our football club at the moment. Yeah,
fair enough, mate. Let's get through some comments here. Jake Alfredini says, a bit too much for a bloke who hasn't done too much for us. Ian Hobbs, there was no build-up, almost a nothing to see here moment. Josh Roycroft, I say pay respect, but don't go out like that. Darcy says there was more focus on Gibbs' last game than anything else. You could tell before the game even started the guys weren't serious. Mick says, why give a fuck about the opposition player? We had finals on the line. James Williamson says, retiring Simpson before Betts was the wrong call. We'll get to that. We'll definitely touch on that. That's going to be a big talking point tonight, I think. Pop Smoke says Teague's not tough enough. Gabriel says we should have given them a flogging, then cheered him off after the game after we got the job done. Adam Horton says he was okay with the build-up, but he was filthy on the performance. Arbin, Benny, Lumani, we gave them a game. We gave them a game for Gibbs. We're too nice of a club. Sam, I'm going to get this right tonight, bruv. Sam Di Benedetto. They paid more. They paid more respect to Gibbs and Cruiser.
I don't even. I'm not even going to bother.
Di Benedetto.
There you go.
I've been practicing it. I knew we'd be on. Kuda says the build-up was okay till we lost. If we win, the talk about Gibbs becomes irrelevant. So in retrospect, it was wrong. Where are we? Damien Mounier. You can do that if you win, but after a bad loss, don't smile and laugh and carry off the opposition. Where are we? Wildy says Heath, Buck and Pom's reaction was spot on. Justin Cooper, I want to see more emotion and passion out of Teague. It's too PR-driven. Lack of movement from the coach's box is concerning. The last fortnight with the first halves have been frightening. Chris Beach, simple answer. If you're going to tribute Gibbs, tribute Cruiser for God's sake. Cruiser's body will be very lucky to still be hanging on together after all the hits he took and injuries he had. So, yeah, that's it is what it is. We've just got to move on. Hopefully we learn from it, and hopefully it's a lesson. But, yeah, you're right, Paul. It's a bit scary that that's sort of been organised now, because we're talking about a club trying to put ourselves back into the winning ways, back into a winning culture. And I don't know if that looks good. And for a PR club that loves a PR, loves looking good, loves making the right message, I don't know if they got that one right.
And I don't know if you remember too, but there's always been that little thing. I don't know if it was prior to Bolts coming in or if it was maybe after he got in. There was always this thing with the club that they weren't exactly inclusive of their premiership greats. That there was not really a connection after the club, despite all they'd done, for the club. Premiership players back in the 90s, 80s, and the 70s. And to hear that and then see that on the weekend, for me, it just didn't sit right. It just didn't sit right with me.
Yep. I asked this question a few weeks ago. I put the question out. Goodness me! I put the question out to the people. I think this was before the 5-round block that we are now 4 games into, and I asked what was a pass mark, and most people said 2 to 3 wins.
Yep.
We know that we can only win 2 of the 5 now. So I'm going to ask you, Paul, and I'm going to ask everyone in the audience again. Last time I asked this question, there was a 100% yes response. And I'm interested to see if we get it again. Right. Have we improved from 2020, Paul? And for you guys at home, yes or no in the comments. Have we improved?
Yes, we have. We have,
yep.
Yeah, we have.
Is it a marginal improvement? Is it a significant improvement?
It depends. I mean, if you analyse it from a Bolton to Teague takeover, absolutely, it's chalk and cheese. We're in games up to our eyeballs, obviously, and we haven't really had too many. We haven't really had too many horrific games. You could probably maybe count them. You could count them all on one. And maybe last night, the Hawthorn game was pretty bad. But other than that, Geelong last year in the last round was it was 10 goals, but it was not the worst 10-goal loss you'll ever see. It's an incremental improvement, I think, on last season. And I think we've been a lot more competitive this year. And to go down and beat Geelong in Geelong, I just hope that's not the exception to the rule.
Yep. So, because Heath Buck talks about improvement under Teague. So let me ask the question again, and this is for you, Paul, and for you guys at home. Since Teague took over, have we improved?
Ooh. I think we've stagnated in the second half of the year. I think so. I think after I think it was who did we play before Hawthorn?
West Coast?
Was it West Coast or was it before that? Or it might have been North Melbourne. One of those teams. I think we went into the North Melbourne. We went into the Hawthorn game off a win.
We played North Melbourne. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. So we played North Melbourne. I thought that moment there when we beat North Melbourne, I thought, geez, fuck, if we can beat Hawthorn and get a little bit of a run on, then maybe the second half of the year we can start to show that incremental improvement. But I think we've stagnated, and you can see it in the players too. Like the development of SPS just plateaued. And I think he's sort of part of that. And then you look at blokes like McGovern who have just not come on at all. Eddie Betts hasn't improved us, I don't think. Maybe from a forward pressure perspective he may have, but from a goal output point of view he hasn't. Where I think we've expected a lot more from him in front of the sticks. So I think in the second half of the year we've definitely plateaued. Whether or not we go back down the other way next year or continue to climb, that's who knows. Who knows? It's a big off season, but yeah, to keep it short, I think we've plateaued. Yeah.
Okay. No, fair enough. What I want to do now that everyone is well and truly tuned in, we had a little competition over the weekend for the Guernsey giveaway, the second last Guernsey giveaway for the year. So we've given away 8 or so, and I want to give you, before you press play, Shad, these are all the names on the right who entered. Basically, you had to subscribe on the Blue Abroad website. So Shad, why don't you hit play, and then we'll announce the winner of the 2020 Carlton Guernsey. This is courtesy of the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. So as you can see, what's that?
This is the biggest Wheel of Fortune board I've ever seen.
So someone's
there's no bankrupt. No.
Someone's about to win a brand new Carlton Guernsey. Something positive out of a negative day. Who's it going to be?
If you look into that long enough, you'll start going a bit bonkers, I think.
Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Hello, Josh Draga. Congratulations to you, Josh. Can you please message me if you're watching now so I can get back to you straight away after the show? So congratulations to you, mate. You have a 2020 Carlton Guernsey coming your way. Thanks, Shad. So, yeah, something positive, mate. Something positive to break it up.
Something this weekend.
Not all of us can be winners, but Josh is. All right, mate. Let's move on to the votes. I'll ask you to give us your 1, your 2, and your 3, and maybe give a little bit of a spiel on each of them. And you guys at home, please right now put your 1, 2, and 3 in the comments so I can read them out. Go for it, Paul.
1 to Michael Gibbons. Thought he stood up in the midfield when the tide was just completely against us. He went in there and tried to provide a bit of spark and dash that we desperately lacked from the get-go. Thought he was good. Sam Walsh, 2 votes for him. Just continues to lead the way, doesn't he? The young fella sets the standard every week, and I thought he was good yesterday again with a massive load to carry. And 3 votes to Big H, Big Harry up forward. He was the bloke who kept us in the game up front. And he was the only forward who really looked likely, to be honest, all day. And he clunked what he had to clunk. He kicked what he had to kick, and he's one of 3 or 4 that can hold his head up high.
A lot gets spoken about this year about doing your job. I think Harry is there to kick goals, so I think he certainly did his job. The votes are absolutely steaming in. Get them in, guys. I'm going to go through them right now. Why do I like 3 to Gibbs, 3 to Scholl, 2 to Gibbs, 1 to Brad Crouch?
Well played. Whoever that was, very well played. Very well played.
Done. Well done. Tim Wilkes, 3 to Harry, 2 to Wiedering, 1 to Gibbo. Joshua, 1 to Gibbons, 2 to Wiedering, 3 to Walsh. Darcy, 3 to Walsh, 2 to Wieders, 1 to Setters. Black Carrot, 1 to Gibbons, 2 to McKay, 3 to Walsh. We've got Liam McMillan, 1 to Gibbo, 2 to Walsh, 3 to Simo. We've got Lockie Bright, 1 to Setters, 2 to Walsh, 3 to Harry. We've got Max Klein, 1 to Walsh, 2 to Wieders, 3 to Harry. Jake Marino, 3 to Walsh, 2 to Wiedering, 1 don't know who he's got there. Josh Roycroft, 1 to Sam Walsh, 2 to Setterfield, 3 to Mackay. Clinton, 1 to Gibbons, 2 to the King, 3 to Harry. Stock Standard says 3 to Harry. I haven't got his others. I'm guessing he's going to put them in. So yeah, what did I have? I had 1 to. I was a bit stiff on Harry. I gave him 1. I gave Setters 2, and I gave Walsh 3. I feel like Harry should have got the 2 there. But yeah, I just thought the first quarter. I mean, if there was a positive, it was that Sam Walsh and Setterfield, the tackling pressure was phenomenal.
Yeah. Setterfield had something like nine tackles for the day, was it? I think.
Yeah,
and it's nice to see that become part of his game as well. That's a thing that we expect now, week in, week out, and it's something that he's clearly worked on. And it's a good thing to have as one of those tough inside midfielders. And I don't think we've had, a guy of his ilk and class. We've got Ed Curnow who does it week in, week out, but he's that grunt sort of footballer. Not the greatest user by foot, but I think Setterfield, if he can get that balance right between being hard at it and then being, silky on the outside as well, then we'll have a player for a few years. So Josh Fowler, Rocco 3. That's great.
I've never seen a man become more popular more quicker than our man Rocco. He's phenomenal.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
No, we love the fan cams. It's a good way to, it becomes therapy after a loss. After a win, it's easy because everyone wants to just chime in with positivity, and I would prefer it to have that. But after a loss, we're isolated in Melbourne. We can't go for that. We can't go to our mate's place and just shoot the shit. So it's good to have somewhere to just all get together and just chat it out, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, mate. And like in chats, you say things that you think, oh, geez, he's not going to be at the club next year, or he's useless, or but then I think once it all sort of wears off and you come into things like this, you can be a little bit more constructive with your criticism rather than abusive, I'd say. But again, as we said, prior to coming on, people are going to vent their frustrations in whichever way they deem fit, and however people want to do it, they can do it. It's, free country. We live in Australia. So however you want to come across and critique the club, go for your life, I say. So. Yeah,
that's it, mate. We all have the ability to say what we want until we get censored. So until then, we'll continue to go.
Hopefully that doesn't happen.
I want to ask about McGovern because he's a fascinating one. He really is. He's mountains of talent. Well, maybe just a lot of hype and a lot of promise for what he was going to bring to the club. Where is he at? What's going on? Are we just being a little bit too impatient with him?
Impatient? Terry is what, 26?
Yeah,
mate. The criticism on him is justified. And I think that as a football club, I think there are people inside there that would be extremely disappointed with the output given the investment into the player. If you look at it from a pure business point of view and say, okay, what's our cost benefit analysis? The cost is outside the screen, and the benefit is just it's here. The gap is enormous. He was brought into the club to be a match winner. He was brought into the club to provide an edge in our forward line. Has he done that? No, clearly. And I honestly cannot think of a time where I've walked away from a game and said, "Fuck, he was good today." He was the bloody reason. He was one of the reasons we won today. He was fantastic. I cannot pick a game out for you, mate. And I hate to say it too. I can't pick a game out from the top of my head where I've said, "Geez, he was bloody fantastic today." I just can't, mate. And that's just where he's at. And to be on that money, as well, and last year to have to go into, what was it, the cage? Is that what they called it? Andrew Russell's cage or whatever it was. You are a professional footballer. You are paid to be fit. You are paid as an elite athlete to rock up week in, week out and perform to that level. If you cannot do that, what are you there for? What are you there for? And I think the fact that he has not been omitted once from memory I think just says everything about the standard where this football club is at. I think the fact that he's not being dropped, I think there are players in that side, there are young blokes in that side that would be thinking, bloody Christ, geez, I'd love to be on that kind of dosh and dish up the output that he does week in, week out from a statistical point of view and still take home what I take home, you know. And young kids look at that and they'd be disheartened. They would be, you know, they'd be kicking stones in the reserves, thinking, Jesus Christ, what have I got to do to get in front of him, you know?
Well, okay. Look, I do agree with you, but I do want to try and find some practicality here. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Stock standard, Stock standard says Mitch McGovern's on 700K. He was nicknamed brackets on day one. That says a lot. The PM is on 560K. So, yeah. It's interesting, but suggestions have come left, right, and centre about him. So let's talk about it now. I'll ask you, Paul, and you guys at home. There's 2 points I want to bring up. Number one, how do we get the best out of him? What do we need to do? What is the next step here? Because this is if we're going to keep him. What needs to happen? Is it put him behind the ball? Is it put him on the wing? I don't know. How do you help him?
Well, that has to be the last resort, doesn't it? You know, throwing him down back. But the problem is we've just signed Marchbank to 2 years. We've got Liam Jones on he's got 2 years to go on his contract. We've just signed Wiedering to a long-term contract. You know, they're all our key position pillars, you know, for the next handful of years. And you know, arguably there's probably not a spot down there for him, I wouldn't think. Whether or not he gets into form as a backman and just completely pushes Jones or someone like that or Marchbank out of the side completely, you know, I just don't see that from what the club have done on a contractual point of view for our back line. I just don't see him fitting in down there, I don't think. You know, and the fact that we have to talk about, what does the club have to do? You know, can coaches do something differently, mate? You're brought in to be a match winner, mate. Go out there and do it yourself. You know, if you're not getting the ball in the forward line, get up the ground, get up the field, get yourself involved, mate. I know he's not of the ilk of a Buddy or anything like that, but you see Buddy when he's having a shitstorm of a game, he'll go up on the ball, mate. He'll smash a few blokes. He'll go in there, get his own football and make something happen. I just don't see it with Mitch, unfortunately.
So you look at Adelaide, right? And you look at the way that they handled the Gibbs situation. You might call them a basket case, but they're a big club. And they held standards, and he obviously wasn't meeting them. And they said, listen, whatever's going on with you right now, he's not going to cut it. We're going to pay you out. Off you go. Happy retirement. We'll give you a send-off game. Now, I thought Mitch McGovern had another year to go, but people have messaged me all week telling me that this is his last year of his contract. So what would you do? Would you sign him again? Or would you say, listen, as a club, we probably didn't get it right. Good luck, Mitch. We'll get the compensation pick for you because we pay you an X amount of dollars. I think you get the compensation pick based on salary. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. I think that's how it works, yeah.
So are you signing him or are you letting him go? Because that's where we're at. And I'm not, I'm not being an asshole here. I'm just about winning.
No. Look. My initial reaction was no. But I think I'm a big believer of sometimes that first opinion, even though that might not come to fruition early, sometimes you just need to hang on that little bit longer. Whether or not we're in the position to do that, you know, for me, first judgment, I find first judgment's usually the one to go with. And I just don't see a spot there for him. I don't think. With Charlie coming back in, the only way I think that they would justify it is that, you know, Charlie might not be as reliable with the body given he's got the knees. But then you can make the same argument for McGovern as well. He's got the hamstrings and whatever else. So initially I would say no. And given the list cuts that are probably going to eventuate post-season, I don't think he can carry blokes like that. You know, whether or not, again, they find a massive spot for him down back and he does a Liam Jones and does a Lazarus and resurrects his career unbelievably, then maybe. But, you know, and obviously Teague must like him if he continues to play him and not drop him. So there's that side as well, you know. But I personally, I can't see him really giving too much, you know.
Yeah. What about you guys at home? What are you guys doing with McGovern? Stock standard says Take $150 voucher from Super Cheap Auto for him.
Mate, hey, if that's his opinion, mate, you're more than entitled to it. If that's what he reckons, go for your life, mate.
First impressions last. It doesn't care. It doesn't play. Can't play back. Goodbye. Don't speak about the war. John Muratidis. Need to give him a chance to work with Harry and Charlie together. And that's probably an interesting point there as well. They've played 8 games together. So there's that as well. Rob Winston. Get a mindfulness coach down at Icon Park. 90% of the game is played above the shoulders. AFL footy players can get way too comfortable when on juicy contracts. Interesting one there. I like that. Liam says $350K per year for 1 year. Darcy says give him a chance to play in defence, otherwise get rid of him. Tim says I'll pay his airfare back to Adelaide. Clinton says give him 1 more year on bugger all money. Some dude says I don't know, he's a time bomb, but I feel like we have waited a bit. Bradley says keep him. Vince says on far too much money for what he gives. No passion I can see from him. Thomas says would we get anything for him in a trade? Well, I don't think we can trade him now, right? Because he's out of contract, yeah?
No, we can't. No.
Michael Tsalikis says cut his wage by 50%, 1 or 2 year extension. Steve says give Gov a $200 Krispy Kreme donut voucher. Kenny says maybe look at ball delivery in the forward line. It's Lockie Bright says Jack Silvani's better. Bryce says I wouldn't even give him a Coke and a pie to play at my local club. It's we're split, you know, and you earn your reputation. You know, when he came to the club, we were all around him. Let's not forget about that. Every single person was all around him. I still have hope for him, but I'm starting to get okay. If I had to answer the question, I'd say get rid of him while you can.
Yeah.
While you can.
Yeah.
I understand we want to try this 3 tall forward system. I get it, but I don't know if it's going to work. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just don't see it. And I'm now moving into, hey, it's year 6. Are we going to make finals next year? Because we have to. Are you going to help us do that? I don't know. It's been 2 years, Paul. I mean, what are we waiting for?
Yeah. No, I agree. Look, and the thing is, like, you don't want him to be like. You want him to be a Carlton footballer. You want him to be. You want him to be good. You know, because mate, for me, he does have the passion. You know, he grabs the jersey. You know, when he kicks a goal, you know, he gets around it. But it's just the output it's not good. It's really not good enough. It's really good. And I'm still shocked as to how he's not being omitted on form. It is really perplexing. You know, and the whole. And I put this up on, I think, Twitter a week or 2 ago. The whole thing about defending him about, you know, structurally he provides this. And that is just like, I mean, like, if you're brought in to be a match winner and you know, structure's one thing, but, mate, like, you're there to kick goals, mate. You're there to put, you know, you're there to win games for the Carlton Football Club and stamp your authority on the game. And he just hasn't done that at the club, you know. As harsh as it might be, Terry, you know, I just genuinely don't see a spot for him on our list next year, just purely based on form, I think. But again, as I said before, and to reiterate the point, the only way I can really see him staying is 2 ways. So they shift him down back, and he just becomes incredible, and he does a Liam Jones, or they hold on to him and keep him in the forward line because he might be arguably more reliable than what Charlie may be with the knee. Those are the only 2 arguments that I can make, you know.
I guess there is the notion as well that Levi probably has X amount of years left, less than 5. So there's maybe that as well. But look, I just want him to fix it. Just fix it. I mean, it was Adelaide. It was his old club, and it was, you know, I was getting messages saying this is going to be the week. This is the one. You know, he's gonna you know, shove it right up him. So we wait.
Jeez, he didn't.
Wait.
Did he go out there with a chip on his shoulder? I mean, mate, geez, he didn't even. You know, go out there, mate. Just, you know, start a bit. You know, take someone out. You know, fairly obviously, but mate, just show a bit against your old club, mate. You know, Bryce Gibbs bloody did. I'll give you the tip. Yeah,
he did. He did. So okay, well, I guess we wrap up round 17. We've got our closure. where we can move on with it. It hurts, but we've done what we need to do now to move on with it. So we've got a game left, mate. Before we talk about the ins and the outs, obviously there's a report that's come through today from 7 AFL that Cade Simpson is going to play his final game this weekend. What were your initial thoughts? And you guys at home, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, look, it didn't surprise me. There were a few murmurings about that Cruz and Simo were going to hang up the boots come season end. I think given the stature at this football club and all he's given for us, I think, just a little warrior, basically. There's nothing of the little bugger, and he just, he got killed by Wellingham, a couple of years ago, and even since then, he just hasn't shirked at the task. He's always going back with the flight of the ball, and it's a shame that we can't win a flag for him. I think blokes like him and Cruiser are blokes that you want to play and win premierships for. They give their all to the club. And it's a shit time for the club for him to retire in such a way. It'd be nice if he could retire in a great way by lifting a premiership cup, but unfortunately that's not to be.
Yeah, no, spot on, and it's going to be weird, really weird without him. I've obviously, both of us, we've grown up and Simo's been playing the whole time. He'd be the last one. He'd be the last one of the absolute originals. I mean, we've obviously been around since before Murph was drafted, and then he'll be the next oldest player. So it's going to be weird without him. I mean, look, it's not confirmed yet because it's on 7 AFL. I mean, they wouldn't run with that story if it wasn't true. I think. I don't know. What do you think? Like, is that enough for us to know it's definitely happening?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. Look, and if he doesn't, well, he goes again another year. Look, regardless of, we're going to have this chat at the end of this year or at the end of next year either way. So it's hopefully it goes on another year and we end up winning a flag next year. But I think that's that's probably about 1,000 to 1 of that happening next year. So I think the disappointing thing about it is, Terry, is that you have blokes like him and Cruiser at the club, and they give their all, and they just haven't been surrounded by blokes like them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's blokes like that are going to lead you. If you have enough guys like that, that's what's going to get you to your premierships. And the fact that we weren't able to do it with those two there, if the news about Simo is true, is it's disappointing. But as a club, it happens. We move on, and it's time for the young kids to come up and build their own legacy and become someone like a Cade Simpson.
Yeah, I had
the premiership and not the most amount of games lost in the history of AFL, unfortunately. So it's shocking for him to have that hanging over his head, but unfortunately, it's reality.
I had a vision today, right? I had a vision today, and it prompted me to post about Simo with the caption that I posted. I had a vision today of him getting carried off, and my message as in on the shoulders after the game.
Right.
My message that I wanted to get out to the world today, more so to the players, was don't you fucking dare let that man lose this weekend. Don't you dare let his final game be on the shoulders of his teammates crying because we've lost again. Because I don't know how many times we've had milestone games where we've lost. Like I remember, I think Murphy's 200th we lost. I remember seeing him crying on the shoulders of whoever it was. I think Simo's 350th we lost. Sorry, not 350th. 300th, was it?
350th we win. His 300th we lost against Port Adelaide at the G. That I remember. But I'm pretty sure his 250th we won. I think it was against Port Adelaide as well. I think him and Cruiser had the same milestone game from memory, I think.
Right. I just don't want the final image of him. I mean, he's lost all his career in terms of he's had that losing record, and we hate it. Don't let the man finish his career like that. Let him have a moment of joy for the final photo. And I feel strongly about it. Do not let him lose his final game.
Yeah. Yeah, and there has to be that sort of sentiment going into the game. But what I think would do him proud is if you go out there. I think he's always been one of those types of players that doesn't like the limelight. He doesn't want to make it all about him. Go out there, do what you have to do to beat Brisbane. Play to your structures, put the pressure on early, tackle hard, make sure you kick goals when you get your chance. And that's what's gonna make us win the game. The sentiment runs out after a quarter and a half. Obviously, the emotion goes away, and you're in the thick and thing of things, and I think that's what we need to sort of focus on going into the game as well. But at the same time, realizing that one of the greats of the club in the modern era is leaving, and that's those are the two things we need to get. You've got to balance that right. You've got to balance that right leading into the game. So if you play too much on emotion, then the game can sometimes get away from you, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And dare I say it, carry him off. Let the lead up be about him.
Bloody hell.
Organise
about him this week.
Oh, mate! I wonder if Mitch Robinson gets a send off this week. He's had a good season. We might put him on the shoulders of some blokes this week.
Oh, mate, God! I hope it happens, and I hope we're carrying him off after a win. It'd be bloody nice. But the frustrating thing is that I think we're good enough to beat him. That's a bloody frustrating thing. It's just our problem at the moment is just the inconsistent nature of which we decide to rock up or not. So
yeah, no, spot on. So, are you making any changes for this week? And if so, what are you doing? And you guys at home as well, let me know your changes, your ins and your outs.
Changes. Oh, well, I think
Doc will come out.
So Doc will come out, obviously. Who comes in for him? I'm not sure. Who would come in for him, actually? That's a good question. So Doc comes out. Maybe there'd probably be another 2 changes, I would say. Probably, I think O'Brien might miss. O'Brien maybe misses for maybe Cottrell. And then maybe Cripps might be rested. Who knows? That might be. I don't think he will. Not for Simo's last game. And then maybe McGovern comes out potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's hard to. I mean, who do you pick? Mate, you could drop bloody half the team after that effort.
Well, we know that Harris Andrews is out. That's a big blow for them. I'm not sure what their reserve stocks are like for defenders, and obviously we beat them very well last year. That was obviously the Cripps show. I wonder if McGovern will stay in because of that, given that we might be able to stretch them in our forward line. But yeah, I don't know. Like, does Lockie O'Brien come out after a game? There's questions there. I mean, where's Kennedy? What's happened? What's Kennedy done wrong?
I think O'Brien will come out. I think, I mean, you're talking about stretching the Brisbane Lions this week. I mean, but they couldn't even do it against Adelaide.
Yeah, true that.
They had Daniel Talia wasn't playing, for God's sake. So whether or not they try something different in that forward line to try and bolster up the scoreboard and get us, with a competitive score that's able to win, who knows? But they need to tinker with something this weekend, But again, it's that balance of, okay, we're going to pick a team to win. That's going to be, have a more likely chance of winning the game this weekend for Simo, or are we going to pick a side, maybe have 5 or 6 changes and bring in some kids, like maybe McGovern comes out for Josh Honey, maybe O'Brien does come out for Cottrell again, something like that. So I think there are going to be minimum 3 changes though, definitely.
Yep.
1 forward, 2 or 3 omitted. Yeah.
Yeah. Fisher's the other one as well. He hurt his shoulder and he played with one arm for the game. I wonder what that's going to show up like this week. So the people. Mick says O'Brien to come out. Andrew Satsias cruiser in for McGovern.
Tell you what, mate, his output wouldn't be too much dissimilar. I'll give it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he'd give a crack. He'd give a shit. Tim P says out McGovern, Doc, O'Brien in, Marchbank, Kennedy and Honey. Bryce Riches, McGovern out, Kennedy in, Cotters in, Doc out. I like that. Marcello Sebastiani, is this a relative of yours?
He is. He's the man you spoke to earlier today.
Marzi. He says the rabbit Paulson comes in.
Yeah, I think so. I think, actually, Paulson might get a gig. He might come in. The docker. Yeah, actually, that's probably the like for like at the moment, you'd say.
Yep. Jeffrey O'Day, if form counts, Murphy and Governor out. Jeff, who are you bringing in that case? Liam McMillan, McCready for Doc, O'Brien out for Cottrell, Helena Petru. Can we? I've missed your comment. Absolutely missed it. Sorry. Liam says Tex is the most. Okay, we'll leave that comment out. I won't finish that. Okay, we'll leave that as it is. Waldy, Paulson probably back to replace Doc. Okay, cool. So we've got about 10 minutes to go. So let's turn the focus to the fans and the fan questions. So guys, I put a post up earlier today. I'll read out some of the questions. I'll start with the Facebook questions and then we will go through to the Instagram questions. Fan Q&A, let's start. Cam Dempster, why can't we break the mold of mediocrity? Will we ever get there with this group? I'm going to add to that. How do we break the mold of mediocrity?
Oof. That is the $1 million question. That is a premiership question, Terry. That is a premiership question. Well, it has to start with a massive off-season. That's what it has to start with. It has to start with landing your wish list from a recruiting point of view, making sure you get the blokes that you actually do want. And it has to start from there, and you have to drive the standards in pre-season as well, because this year's simply not been good enough. You know, David Teague said in his press conference after the game yesterday that we have to get better. We have to be ruthless. We have to be better for longer. And how we do that, that's up to the coaches. That's up to the players. It's up to the fans to continue to push the club for better. I think it has to be a holistic approach. It has to be players, coaches, fans, sponsors. You know, it can't just come from one place or one person. It has to come from everybody. You know, the louder the rumblings get from the fans, and then that's going to pass on to the club as well. So there's no one way to fix it. You know, we just have to continue to keep getting better as footballers. Our systems need to be better, and our players need to get better as well. Our recruits need to be better than what we've got on the park at the moment. You know, and the senior blokes that we have in the moment have to be replaced by a lot better footballers, you know. So whether we look at someone like a Sard from Essendon to replace someone like Simpson, or we look at someone like Jack Graham, whose name's been bandied about in the media over the last few days, you know, I don't think he's going to improve us a hell of a lot. He might be a job doer, you know, he's 22 years old. You know, you'd sign him up and he'd be a solid footballer for the next 4 to 5 years. So, as I said, there's no one way you can do it. It has to be a whole club approach, and you have to demand success. That's the only way you'll get it. You know, if that's not your aim, if your aim is not premierships and finals, then you're never going to get there. So the aim should never be to, we just want to make finals and that's all we want to do, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, all that hogwash we hear. And, you know, you play to win premierships. That's what you play for. That has to be the standard. You know, what do they say? Is it, if you don't finish first, you're last. So
yep, yeah, that's true. You know, on the Jack Graham news, obviously, it's been spoken about that he's been offered a 4-year deal to come to Carlton. Now, for me, he ticks every box of what I've been asking for personally in terms of, can we find someone? Bless you. Can we find someone who's come from a winning system, knows what it takes to win a premiership? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, did he not play in the Granny in his 5th game or something like that?
It might have been, and he did he kick 3? I think he kicked 3 goals.
3. He was close to. He could have won a Norm Smith.
Yeah, he was goals too, like clutch goals.
Yeah, and he had the bung shoulder as well from memory.
Yeah.
Now we look at him now. Straight away, where does my mind go to? Now, obviously, I interact with a lot of fans, and I almost learn how the fans are going to talk. Straight away, my mind goes to this. We can't bring Jack Graham in because we've got David Cunningham. Are these the types of calls? Because Jack Graham's kind of a mid that floats forward, right?
Yeah. But you need to bolster up the list. Like, it's just you can't. Yeah. The thing is, like, you're looking at someone like David Cunningham, who's I think he's super talented, but he's wildly inconsistent. And that's just not going to cut the mustard if you want to start getting up into the top 4. And we can't be speaking about that if we've got players who are hot 1 week and then cold for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks and then come out again. And but I think with Cunners, I mean, that'll improve as he becomes a hardened seasoned footballer. I think that consistency.
Why will it improve? Why?
I just think as you mature as you mature as a person and the standards continue to increase and you understand what's required of you as a footballer, I think there's a penny drop moment. I think as a footballer and he's shown glimpses of it, and I think the trust and faith that the club have shown in him, and the fact that they've decided to sign him on for 3 years as well, just I think shows that he does. I think it shows that the club sees something in him, which I think we all do. And I think a player like him, if he gets his mindset right, which is what he needs to do, then that's how he'll become a good, consistent footballer. So, but again, nothing's guaranteed, Terry. Nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that he shouldn't be the reason we don't go for a guy like Jack Graham.
Yeah, agreed. I'm big on Jack. I think that's if we can get that done, we need to. I'm just so big on that. We know that Papley has, formally or informally announced that he's going to stay at the Swans.
Yeah.
So that puts the Papley conversation to bed. And now all of a sudden it becomes oh my God, we didn't get Butler, we got Betts. Betts could be gone next year. We waited for Papley. Is that a hole now that needs to be filled, or do we now allow for the Cunningham, Martin, Fisher, Gibbons sort of quartet to play that role instead of having Eddie Betts there?
Well, the question I'm asking is, how the bloody hell have we not been able to develop a small forward on our own accord?
Well,
that's what perplexes me.
Mm-hmm.
You can go out and say, we'll get him, and him, and that'll fill the void. But the fact that we haven't been able to develop a small forward in the last 4 to 5 years, when it's a position on the ground that we've been bloody screaming for. We got Jim Lamb, that didn't work. We've tried a few other blokes up there and that hasn't worked. Gibbons is probably not a small forward, even though they try him there. But whether or not maybe you go out and get someone, look at like a Petrocelli from West Coast, sort of that fast, small type of flair forward. Who knows? But I don't think that we should be breaking the bank for a small forward. I wouldn't have thought, but and that's why I think someone like Jack Graham might fit the mould nicely.
Yep. I had an agenda item to bring up, which I forgot about, but I've just remembered. So it's a yes or no question.
Right.
And Paul, you'll elaborate, but for those of you at home, it'll be yes or no. The 2017 draft, Paddy Dow, Lockie O'Brien. Is it time to panic? Yes or no to you guys at home? Paul, what's going on?
Well, can I just go through the list that I manufactured of that top 10? I'll make it very quickly. So it was one. It was Rayner, Brayshaw, Dow, Davies, Uniacke, Chera, Stevenson, Hunter Clark, Nick Caulfield, Aaron Norton, and Lockie O'Brien. I would say that the two that we have picked up in that draft are probably not the best players. I don't think they are. But again, they are young. They've still got a long way to go in their careers, hopefully. And I don't think you just can't be too harsh on them in their third year of football, I don't think. But the fact that those other blokes have taken the next step, I think that there have to be worrying signs. There have to be worrying signs because those three blokes have not shown the natural, that natural development and that incremental improvement from year to year. And Dow, I know, has had the knee, obviously.
Yes.
But O'Brien's I don't think he's had really any injury issues, to be honest. So
I thought he had a fantastic. I mean, I was obviously, both of us, we were going to as many of the open training sessions as possible. Yeah. I was watching O'Brien and I thought he was looking great. He was getting these handball receives on the wing, running forward, kicking goals in the match sim. And I thought he's primed.
Yeah, he was running on top of the ground in pre-season, but it's a different ball game when the ball gets bounced, Terry. Different ball game, mate. Yeah,
that that footage of him in the second quarter, it's damning. It's damning. It's damning.
It's a shocking look, really. Even if you're not going to get the bloke, like, mate, just pin the ears back and have a crack, son. So and that's not anything to do with the third year player, mate. From first year to 15th year.
Yep.
That is not the standard. Period.
Yeah, I think the worrying signs are coming because, as you said, the others are coming on. They're showing something, and then that turns my focus to, well, okay, the coaching box has been questioned over the last, well, probably the last 18 months, depending on who you're speaking to. We talk about our inability to develop a small forward over the last 3-4 years. We talk about our inability to see guys from the 2017 draft develop. Development is probably it's a two-pronged thing. It's the player and his attitude, and it's probably the environment and the coaching that he's getting. So, how much blame goes where?
Well, there obviously has to be. It's not just one. I don't think it's just one aspect of it. But the thing with Dow is that there's this talk, and we've seen it as well. Like, he was drafted as a pure midfielder, that explosive nature away from the contest. Why the bloody hell are they playing him up in the forward line at half forward? I know he played that role. I think it was against Fremantle last year when we beat them, with the last kick of the game or whatever it was, and I think kicked a goal or whatever it was. He played okay in that role. But if you're drafted as a bloody midfielder, play them in the midfield. We almost fucking destroyed Jacob Wiedering.
Oh my God.
Fucking defender, picking him up as a fullback and then deciding for some fucking reason or another to start playing him as a bloody forward. And that it stunted his development, mate. He had that year where he was just at 6s and 7s, and I say this, my cousin and I, we say it every week, mate, square pegs, round holes. As a young kid, all you've known through your junior years, Paddy Dow, I was picked up as a midfielder. I played in the midfield as a junior. Give me a chance there, like what Bolts did in the first couple of years. He played in the midfield. Then we start fucking around with putting him up in the half forward line, then starting, putting him up as maybe playing him as a small forward against Richmond. He barely got in the game, first game of the year, So, and then a guy like Lockie O'Brien, probably getting played a bit too early, I think, for his role, has probably just smashed his confidence as well.
Yeah. No. Very fair points, mate.
For me, the development of Dow's just been, that's what's just shitted me up the wall when they started trying to move him up forward. I understand that midfielders have to be, you've got to try and turn them, the most damaging ones are goal-kicking ones. But Jesus Christ, mate, let him learn his craft in the middle first. Keep him there, even though if he's not hitting a standard, drop him. Keep him in the middle in the reserves. Let him learn that role. Let him learn that role for the first couple of years. Then you can venture off and start doing tricky things with him.
Yeah. Very well said, mate. Very well said. We could go on for hours, you and I. It's 8 o'clock.
I know.
I want to thank you very much, mate. Really appreciate you coming on. It's been great to get you on for a show.
It's a bloody...
What was that?
It's a bloody pleasure, mate. And I look forward to contributing a lot more than what I have been in the past. So, yes, we will see. We will see what happens in the future with our football club, but hopefully it's onwards and upwards, eh?
Yep, mate. We look forward to having you on the show again. We look forward to you contributing a bit more as well, guys. If you don't know, Paola was the in some funny ways the OG Carlton fan channel.
Yes. the original Carlton Fan TV, which you subsequently stole under my nose. No, nothing was painted, mate. So you've done a fantastic job with this all, and it's good to see the true fans getting around it and voicing their opinions, and I think it's a great thing for the football club that we can get this avenue and sort of content out there as well. So, Arsenal Fan TV do it brilliantly, and you've done it fantastically well too. So I look forward to contributing, mate, in the coming weeks, mate, and in the off season and into next year.
Love it, mate. You have a great one. Shad Daddy, thank you behind the scenes. Yeah. Everyone at home, thank you very much. Go the fucking Baggers, mate.